This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin Freakin.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol Live. It is Election Day 2023. Just less than a year away from the 2024 presidential race, which is apparently what everybody is talking about in the chat. But you are getting ahead of yourselves. It's Election Day 2023. We're going to go over the races we're going to be watching tonight. I do have, apparently, a call to report to you guys. The Washington Post has not called it. Yeah, the Washington Post has not called it yet. But Dave Wasserman on Twitter has called it. So that means Kentucky incumbent Governor Andy Beshear has defeated the Republican challenger Daniel Cameron and will serve 4 more years as the governor of the bluegrass state of Kentucky. Of course, you guys know Daniel Cameron from the Breonna Taylor case. He was the attorney general, refused to prosecute the cops that murdered Breonna Taylor in her bed. No, I know a lot of right-wingers say she wasn't actually in her bed at the time. No, her fucking door came flying off the hinges and they ran into the hallway and she was shot in the hallway. But they were in bed before her door went flying off the fucking hinges. Just to throw that out there. Good evening. Welcome, Warlord, Flash, Goldfish, Fabian, my man. Good evening. Tones. Welcome. So I've got a couple different. I got a live stream from ABC. We're at a campaign headquarters in Ohio. I've got all the races pulled up over here on Washington Post that we're going to be keeping an eye on, and we'll go over those here in just a second. But first, let me give you your meme of the day. My camera's blocking it a little bit. I'm sorry. Gaslighting is okay if you are talking to a cop. Numbers in just a minute. Just over 50% reporting in Kentucky. We go over the other shit we're going to be talking about that's not election related tonight. And some stuff that is election related. Biden held a re-election event in Florida today. This on the eve of the 3rd Republican presidential debate that we're going to be covering live tomorrow night. We'll come on about 15 minutes early probably. Maybe 30 minutes early if you guys really want a little bit of news. You want to cover the headlines and then do the debate. The debate starts at 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. So if you want to come on 30 minutes early, find out what that news be doing, and then do the debate, I'm totally cool with that. You guys let me know. Things got heated on the floor of the House earlier today as Republicans yet again pushing a bill to censure Representative Rashida Tlaib. I'm going to show you her comments in response. I'm going to show you Chip Roy apparently unloading on her. A Jewish man is dead after a clash between dueling protests in Florida or in California. In Florida, wild video from a protest that went nuts on the campus of the University of Florida. In just the last few hours, a man was arrested by Capitol Police, had a loaded gun on the premises. There's been a lawsuit filed against a children's camp in Arkansas. It is accusing the camp of widespread, it's a Christian children's camp. It's accusing the camp of widespread sexual abuse. Camp is run by a man that Donald Trump pardoned. So wrap your head around that one. All the right-wingers talking about preying on children and shit. It's always the religious institutions, it seems, that are preying on children, indoctrinating children as well. He was pardoned by Donald Trump. Cop in Virginia arrested for producing child pornography. That might make you want to stab a cop in the head with a screwdriver, which is what a Kentucky teen is accused of doing. We have body camera footage of that. What a segue! Come on, I got a couple of them tonight, too. As I'm putting the show together, the order of the stories, I'm thinking about, what segue can I do from this to this? I got a fantastic one coming up later in the show. A police chase ends with a suspect dying after wrecking their car in a pond. There was another super fog in Louisiana. We did this story 2-3 weeks ago. There was a super fog in Louisiana caused I don't even remember how many cars were involved now. It was dozens. I think it was over 50. It was dozens of cars and a pile up. It happened again. Just Stop Oil protesters smashed a glass painting in the National Art Gallery. I would like to juxtapose that to the fact that Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee have raging wildfires in November. It's usually an August, September kind of thing. I remember that from my childhood because I have bad allergies. And when the mountains would catch on fire, I would get stopped up. Always happened around the end of August, the 1st of September. There was a record high today, or yesterday, I think it was, in Tennessee. I wonder if that might have something to do with it. Steve Martin is happy that Steve Martin of SNL fame. I guess he was never a cast member. He just hosted multiple times. The Jerk. Father of the Bride. That Steve. I feel like I need to couch that because, like, the youngins might not know who Steve Martin is. Steve Martin wrote a book, and his book got banned in the Florida library. So you know you're doing something right. All that and a lot freaking more tonight on the Troll Patrol live. Good evening. Cars can't swim. Clinically, Libertad. We're gonna Warlord. The debate tomorrow is going to be awesome because we only have 5. We only have. I don't know if it's 4 or 5. I don't know if that's 5 counting Donald Trump. 5 that qualified. We'll cover that here in just a little bit. But they whittled down the field. So we're actually going to get to hear more from each individual candidate tomorrow. So I'm very much looking forward to that. As if we're going to hear anything from Tim Scott or Nikki Haley. Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't know if there's anybody. I don't know if it's those 4. And then Donald Trump also qualified, so there's 5 that qualified, or I don't know if there's going to be 5. Because once again, Trump is going to be skipping the debate. The debate starts at 8 p.m. Yes, Dustin, that will make everybody hate the remaining few even more. All right, so let's flip over. Let's cover election results so far in Kentucky. Washington Post have not called it, but with 52.5% of the vote tally in, it does look like Andy Beshear is going to waltz to an easy victory over Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. You want some numbers, do you? You know I love numbers.
But then you take my 75% chance of winning and then add 66 and 2/3%. I got 141.
Daniel Cameron had Andy Beshear had a 66 and 2/3% chance of winning because Daniel Cameron knows he can't beat him. Also looking good over in Ohio. What? I saw that there were. There we go. I had to reload it. With 20% of the votes in, it looks like they are going to vote to enshrine abortion. However, I will note that it looks like the votes that have been counted are all in heavily Democratic area: Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Toledo. Off to a good start. However, it does look like the rural areas are the last to come in. This is issue 1, a amendment to the state constitution to enshrine reproductive rights. They've also got a pot initiative on the ballot, but apparently Washington Post didn't think that was too important. In Virginia, well, we're going to be keeping an eye on. The Democrats control the Senate. The Republicans control the House, state legislature. Keeping an eye on this. So far, neck and neck in the Senate race. In the House of Delegates, so far the Democrats are up on the Republicans. Democrats currently up on the Republicans in the House of Delegates race. I think I called it I said State House, okay. The House of Delegates. Those are the races we'll be keeping an eye on. Hold on, let me see, that one reloaded automatically. I don't know why I had to reload Ohio there. It looks like we're up to 53% of the vote. Andy Beshear cruising to victory in Ohio. Let's take ABC News here and see what they've got to say. Oh, that's not going to work too well, is it? There we go.
From tonight may not apply to that.
Fair enough. You're also keeping an eye on a Virginia state Senate race for signals about the upcoming national contest. In suburban Northern Virginia, we understand Republican Juan Pablo Segura is running against Democrat Rossett Perry. Why is this local race so critical?
There is a policy reason, and then there's a bit of a nerdier reason. So we heard from Mary Bruce earlier that this is going to decide whether or not Republicans have full control of government in Virginia, and that could change what state laws are, particularly on abortion. Glenn Youngkin, the governor there, Republican governor, has suggested that there could be a restriction on abortion beyond 15 weeks. But there's a little bit of a nerdier answer too, and that's because these races are very close in the Senate and the House of Delegates in Virginia. And the closest races where there's a lot of money being spent and good quality candidates on both sides, like the race that you mentioned, those are somewhat representative of the kinds of races we could see playing out next year. You know, there's a lot of focus on them. The issues that are being debated are things like inflation, the economy, crime, abortion, issues that will be top-tier issues in the presidential election. So while we can't make too much of what happens tonight, if you do want to get a sense of what the national mood is, I would actually look at those state legislative races in Virginia before I looked at any of the other races out there tonight.
Explain to us why you're tracking the loyalty of voters, particularly in the suburbs.
Yeah, so when I talk about the suburbs, I'm not talking about some lily white, leave it to beaver kind of suburbs. The majority of Americans live in suburbs, so that's important to keep in mind. And there are all kinds of suburbs, dense suburbs, exurban areas that are a little less dense. So when I say suburbs, I'm talking about the majority of Americans. What we saw in 2020 is that Biden did not piece back together the Obama coalition, which was really high turnout amongst voters of color and young voters. The places that he did really well—
Warlord just wants to see the world burn.
More independent or swingier voters. That's where his strength was. And so I'm watching—
If the Republicans were in power, Warlord would be rooting for the Democrats.
Governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, did really well just 2 years.
It is not a policy position for Warlord.
Then 2 years later, a Republican wins it. So where are those loyalties now in the kinds of suburban districts that are being fought over tonight? That's what I'm interested in.
Really appreciate your insight, nerdy and otherwise.
Yeah, your nerdy insight.
Thank you for your time.
Hold on, that was ABC News live reporting. That was what we were checking in on. Let's go to some some reporting in Virginia. Since he mentions Virginia, what exactly we're looking at and what is driving Virginians to the polls.
The future of Virginia politics hangs in the balance as of this election. Every seat in the General Assembly is up for grabs tonight, and with all eyes on the Commonwealth, what are some of the key issues and groups that could decide the power in Richmond? New at 6, Eugene Daniel shares one political expert's predictions.
It's a fight for the soul of Virginia. All 140 seats in the State House and Senate are on the line in Tuesday's election.
All eyes are on the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Not only are candidates on the ballot, but several key issues are too, like the economy and abortion rights. Dr. Eric Clayville, who is a political expert and teaches at Norfolk State University, says the implications reach far beyond the Commonwealth.
Today's election will provide us a view of how not just Virginians, but how Americans view those issues and which party they believe can lead us in the right direction.
Clayville predicts Democrats will keep control of the Senate, but says he will not be surprised with a tie. He also says Democrats have a chance to take the House, but thinks Republicans could very well hold on to a slim majority.
So I believe that women will play a very vital.
So as of right now, it is looking like Democrats will retain control of the Senate and are up in the House races, but it's still early in the night. Polls just closed a little over an hour ago.
Role in this election.
Clayville says two key issues pushing many women to the polls: abortion rights and parental involvement in public schools. He predicts young people and Black Virginians are also key swing votes, and the balance of power will ultimately come down to 6 to 8 key races. One of those races, he says, is for Senate District 24 between Monty Mason and Danny Diggs, which Clayville expects to be tight with no clear winner by the end of the night. For 13 News Now, I'm Eugene Daniel.
Interesting. Let's do the headlines from Washington Post here. Rhode Island voters could make history by electing the state's first Black representative to Congress. Democrat Gabe Amo is heavily favored in a special election. Of course, Ohio's issue 1 is the ballot initiative that seeks to enshrine the right to an abortion in the state constitution. For some Virginia women, abortion rights trump an online sex scandal. We covered this story. Susanna Gibson actually had an OnlyFans account. No. Did she have an OnlyFans account, or was she just, I think she just had videos with her husband or some shit. Despite a scandal over her decision to perform sex online with her husband in exchange for monetary tips. So maybe she was doing like My Free Cams or Chatterbait or something. In all three cases, the voters in Knuckles Farm Elementary School said Gibson's support for abortion rights outweighed any concerns about her explicit online performances.
You live in sexual anarchy.
Oh, Justin's always horny. Before the news broke in September, Gibson's race was considered among the most competitive in the state, and control of the House of Delegates could determine whether Governor Glenn Youngkin can pass a ban on nearly all abortions before 15 weeks. I definitely found it disappointing, Meredith Kozera, 35, said of the revelations about Gibson, but at the end of the day, we got to vote on the issues and not on the individual and their personal choices. Smart. Kozera, who works in banking, went to the polls with her 2-year-old daughter, Addison. I hate to be a single-issue voter, but reproductive rights are very important to me, and I have a little girl here today, and I've got to vote for her. So Glenn Youngkin may have done the Democrats a favor. That could be the issue that hands the state House of Delegates to the Democrats. So right now, Democrats still up 24-19. In the House of Delegates. In the Senate, neck and neck with 6 and 6. In the Senate race, there are 20. No, that can't be right. There's like 40 senators. I guess this split about control. Yeah, there's 40 senators and 100 House of Delegates in Virginia. And so, that 50 is for control there. There are 100 members of the House of Delegates in Virginia. Check back in with issue 1 in Ohio. Still looking strong, but only 20% of the votes have been counted. This is just a slither more than what it was when we checked in with it just a bit ago. There was like 19% of the vote in. And once again, it's all coming from the heavily populated areas thus far. But significant lead for abortion rights in Ohio. Let's find out. Let's take a look at what. No, let's do this first. Doing it on the fly here, guys. Doing it on the fly. Let's take a look at the Kentucky governor's race that we've already called for Governor Andy Beshear. Looks like Beshear will be winning a second term as the governor of Ruby Red, Kentucky. Very popular, and this is one of the reasons why his name is being bandied about as a presidential contender. Because he is a popular Democrat who has been rather progressive in a ruby red state. So let's check in. It was the race between incumbent Andy Beshear and challenger, the Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron.
Close one this time tomorrow night. We should know.
No, wasn't close at all. It looks
who's going to be leading Kentucky as the next governor. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us here. Just a bit late on the night team. I'm Doug Proffitt. Andy Beshear and Daniel Cameron not taking any chances, campaigning into the evening tonight. Cameron holding a telephone rally with former President Donald Trump as well, talking to supporters. Our senior reporter, Isaiah Kim Martinez, and photojournalist Addie Hill are covering the down-to-the-wire campaigning in Louisville. And Isaiah, did you pick up any changes in their messages tonight?
Well, Doug, both the man vying for re-election and the challenge
Starlight, good evening.
Seat him stayed consistent with their campaign.
We just checked in with Ohio.
The state's winning right now, and he's looking to continue that momentum, while Daniel Cameron insisting the governor's ties to the president and his influence.
I believe Ohio is on Central Time, so their polls might have just closed about 22 minutes ago. That's why we are still about 20% of the vote in. So far, the amendment to enshrine abortion rights is running away with it. However, it's only the populated areas that are reporting thus far, so it's still a little early to tell. Oh, it's on Eastern Time. My bad.
On this state is moving it in the wrong direction. In his final Get Out the Vote rally before Tuesday's election, Kentucky's governor telling voters to trust his track record.
I run as a proud Democrat, but you saw the moment I won. I took that hat off and I served every single family.
Andy Beshear spent much of the day in eastern Kentucky, but concluded his campaign efforts at a brewery just east of downtown Louisville.
It's time for us to recognize that a good job isn't Democrat or Republican, a new bridge isn't red or blue, that clean drinking water is a basic human right.
Throughout his campaign, Beshear has focused on the accomplishments of his tenure. That includes billions in new economic investment, the legalization of sports betting and medical marijuana, and what his team calls steady leadership through the COVID-19 pandemic and natural disasters. Meanwhile, earlier Monday afternoon, Kentucky's Attorney General also making a final stop in the state's largest city for a news conference.
And I'm confident that come tomorrow, I'm going to win this race.
Republican Daniel Cameron once again nationalizing the race, tying Governor Beshear to President Joe Biden, blaming them for high inflation and other strains on Kentuckians' wallets.
Come on, man. This governor and this president, Joe Biden, Andy Beshear, there's not a dime's bit of difference between them. They both embrace economic policies that are not good for Kentuckians.
Former President Donald Trump voicing support for Cameron in a voter rally over the phone Monday night.
A vote for Daniel Cameron is a vote for Trump, and it's a vote against Biden, and it's a vote to save the state of Kentucky and the great Commonwealth of Kentucky from Beshear.
Doing medical. They've made medical legal.
Cameron what he feels is the biggest issue separating him and Beshear.
No, there's parents and grandparents that acknowledge and recognize that their kids have had significant learning loss. but the governor has no plan to address that learning loss.
I posed that same question to the incumbent.
When you're running, you have to talk about your record and what you want to do, how you want to work to make a family's life better. My opponent is just attacked, and that's not how you lead.
A high-stakes election comes down to Tuesday night.
Well, Isaiah, here's why I think it's going to be so exciting tomorrow. It's really going to come down to
it's not exciting. This is like a problem with the news, and one of the reasons why you should disregard polling to a certain extent, because the media is invested in making it seem like it's going to be an exciting race that you need to tune in and watch, when in reality, Governor Beshear ran away with it.
turnout, even outside Louisville, and some key counties that Andy Beshear took from the Republicans in 2019, like let's talk Bowling Green and Warren County, Kentucky, where he won by only 1,000 votes.
Slim, just over 1,000, Doug. The political analysts we've talked to have mentioned a few counties, not just Warren in western Kentucky, but you have ones like Kenton County in northern Kentucky that was just 100 or a few hundred votes that separated Beshear from Matt Bevin back in 2019. And then you have some other ones like Scott and Madison County, kind of away from the radar, off the radar a little bit, but there was just a slim margin of victory in 2019. So, of course, Republicans are looking at those as key wins.
We were looking. Scott County, right outside Lexington, Andy Beshear won by 97 votes in 2019. So
it's going to be close.
That's why those analysts...
No, it was not close.
All right.
So that was the recap of the governor's race, which Wasserman has already called for Andy Beshear. He is up 7 points at the moment, maybe a little over 6 points, with 53% of the vote in. So the Ohio race, still waiting for votes to trickle in Ohio. Earlier, when I saw the exit polls on the marijuana referendum, which Washington Post isn't covering for some reason, the exit polls showed that it was likely to pass. We'll check in on that. Here is the Virginia House race, House of Delegates. The Republicans currently control the House of Delegates in Virginia. The political analyst that we just heard from apparently said it was an outside chance that the Democrats take the House, but currently they are in the lead, 24-19. Let's go back and check in with this is the State Senate in Virginia. Shoo-wee, looks like it's going to be a close one. So far, 6-6 on each side. And you see the lean Democrat, lean Republican neck and neck. Oh, and went ahead for the... We gained 2 Democrats just now. So it does look like the Democrats have a very good chance of retaining the Senate in Virginia. Looks like abortion was the issue that drove voters to the polls. Lynn Youngkin was forceful about an abortion ban. And apparently that helped out the Democrats. Now, one of the things that we're going to be looking at is how the election... this off-year election that we're currently watching will affect the 2024 presidential race, which we are less than a year away from.
It decides Democrats are hoping this off-year election can boost their party heading into 2024. 2 key votes Democratic leaders will have their eyes on tonight are Andy Beshear's re-election bid in Kentucky and the Abortion Rights Protection Initiative in Ohio. So who better to talk to us about that than 2 people from those states? Ohio Democratic Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, who represents most of the city of Columbus and Franklin County, and Kentucky Congressman Morgan McGarvey, who represents most of what they call Louisville Metro. Not Metro Louisville, Louisville Metro, right? I get that right?
You got it right.
All right, excellent.
Louisville, right?
Well, you know, I got some family there, so they've taught me right. Election day in both your states, big contests. Congresswoman, let's start with you. This abortion ballot measure really has drawn intrigue across the country and could set the pace on this issue going forward. You got any sense of what could happen tonight?
Well, we know all eyes are on Ohio, and I feel really good tonight. Early vote, we're up with that. If you compare it, as you know, in August, we had the constitutional issue again about women's reproductive rights. And so here we are now with this election, and I think we're going to do okay in it. I think we're going to prevail. 40% early vote came in, and that's a good number for us. If you look at some of the polls, when you ask the question, are people angry about Roe v. Wade and what happened? A greater percentage, they're angry about it. More women are coming out and voting. We know this is beyond an issue just for women. It's a family's issue. I think we've done a great job in educating all of Ohio about how important this is and what it does in the future. And so I'm very comfortable because it'll make a big difference for Ohio, where we are now with the ban on abortion, even if it's rape or incest. So this will put us back where we think we're protecting women's rights.
I'm curious because if people looking outside the state think, okay, this got defeated, abortion rights are going to be enshrined in the Constitution, and you see that big turnout in an off year, should people outside the state think that there's a chance the state's going to go back to being purple or blue after several years of Republican dominance? Or is this an issue-specific thing that has turned out the state tonight?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. And as a proud Democrat, I'm hoping it does help have everybody's eyes on Ohio to say that we can once again be more of a...
Unfortunately, Ohio and Florida are two of the states in the country that have gotten more Republican in the last 20 years, that Trump increased his vote count in both of those states in 2020 over 2016. Whereas in states like Texas, Trump's vote count dwindled. It was like 9. He won by like 9 points in 2016. He won by like 5 points in 2020. Whereas he expanded his vote count in Florida and Ohio in 2020.
Purple to blue state.
Congressman Andy Beshear, one of the most popular governors in the state, or in the country, 65% roughly. Daniel Cameron, the Republican.
And make no mistake about it, the reason why is because Democrats abandoned labor. That's the reason why they lost the Rust Belt, which Ohio, a huge chunk of.
Keeps trying to tie him to President Biden, suggesting he's a Biden Democrat. If we can turn out the governor first and then Biden next year will have succeeded. Is that a message I imagine you think it probably doesn't work in Kentucky, or might it tonight?
I don't think it does work. I mean, Andy Beshear has done an incredible job as governor. And when he got sworn in December of 2019, then 3.5 months later, COVID happens. And he is the one leading our state. He's on TV every evening at 5 o'clock. People refer to it as Beers with Beshear. The people in the state know him. They knew his dad when he was governor. They've watched him shepherd the state through natural disasters, great economic development. But also there's an issue for us that's similar to Ohio. You know, Ohio's our neighbor to the north. And as Congresswoman Beatty was talking about abortion, I think abortion's going to play in this Kentucky race as well, because Kentucky is one of the states right now that there are no exceptions. You cannot get an abortion even if you're a victim of rape or incest. That is something that Daniel Cameron has supported. There have been television ads in Kentucky about this issue. I think it's going to move voters tonight as well in Kentucky.
Quickly, if there's a lesson Democrats outside the state can learn from a Beshear victory tonight, it would be what?
Good leadership, good steady leadership, focus on economic.
I don't know how they keep picking up each other's mics.
Jobs. He's done a wonderful job in that respect, and I think that you're going to see the people of Kentucky respond favorably tonight.
Okay, so you're both Democrats. You're going to be on the ballots next year, I presume. At the top of that ballot is going to be a president right now who, for whatever reason, seems to be wildly unpopular with Americans.
For whatever reason.
What's going on there?
Well, I don't know that he's popular with Americans. You're probably talking about some of the polling results that we've seen. But we could take you back to Ronald Reagan, to Bill Clinton, to President Obama. 18 months before their election, they had less than 50% ratings. Conversely, we can take presidents who at this time had 70-some% ratings, Ronald Reagan, and he lost the election. So I think it's something we have our eye on, and I can tell you—
Ronald Reagan didn't lose.
Over politics, I can tell you we're talking about his track record, and it's unbeatable. When you talk about women, when you talk about what he's done in healthcare, putting that cap on diabetes for insulin, when you think about what he's done for
Danielle, good evening.
School loans.
Justin, did I tell you good evening? I think I left you out earlier.
When you think about workforce development, the economy, getting us through a global pandemic. So many things that we're going to be talking about, and so many things that we know that Americans favor. So we're worried, but not overly.
And even going back to, and just to piggyback on what Congresswoman Beatty is saying, add to that what we felt in the states and what we felt in the cities. You talked about the Kentucky governor's race with Governor Beshear. He has been able to go around the last few years. He's done a great job of it, but he's been able to work on projects that President Biden and the congressional Democrats funded and paid for. It's the Build Back Better plan. It's the CHIPS and Science Act. It is the Inflation Reduction Act. And I think people in our communities are feeling the impact of that investment in our future, in infrastructure, in high-speed internet, particularly in places like Kentucky. But they're going to get a chance during the campaign to talk about that record of success. And I think that's going to be more on voters' minds, particularly if he's up against Donald Trump.
But is there something he needs to be doing more of or less of to try to turn those numbers around and at least calm the worries?
I think the numbers will turn around, and I think that's why he has members like us. I have the opportunity to serve on his national advisory campaign, and we're going out and talking about the issues more. But after all, right,
Slappy the Puppet.
Running a country.
Slappy the Puppet deserves a titty slap.
A titty slap!
Come on now.
I couldn't help myself. I'm slap happy. Most people aren't paying attention to presidential politics at this point in time. We're into the primary season. We're into it because we're political junkies, but most people are not paying attention to presidential politics. So I doubt that the polls will look as bad for Biden come, a month out from the election next year, especially if it's Trump. But also, the media has a incentive to make it seem like it's more of a race than what it is. Talking about Biden, let's go to Biden, who held a re-election event in Florida. Held a re-election campaign event in Florida today on the eve of tomorrow's presidential primary debate for the GOP.
President Biden's re-election campaign held a press conference in Florida today. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker spoke at the event and criticized the so-called MAGA Republicans and GOP economic policies. This comes as Florida prepares to host the third GOP primary debate in Miami tomorrow. Joining us now to discuss it all, the CBS News political director, Fin Gomez. Fin, so good to see you. Now, we are roughly 1 year away from the presidential election. We saw the numbers. According to CBS News polling, the current president is behind the former President Trump. Where does Biden's campaign stand? What are they focusing on?
Well, right now, like in the aftermath of those polls that came out over the weekend, Lilia, that were less than positive for the Biden-Harris re-election campaign. You saw some of that, some of those numbers being underwater for the president in some of those key battleground states and some of that New York Times Siena College polling that we saw, but also in our own polling. However, here today, just the day before the third debate, the third Republican presidential debate, just a couple of miles away from this location, this Union Hall where we are, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, the campaign manager for the Biden-Harris team, and also J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, the Democratic governor of Illinois, who's become a top surrogate for the campaign. They came here to contrast what they see as that MAGA extremism that they say we're going to hear tomorrow night during that debate, and also in Hialeah, Florida, which is just outside of Miami, where former President Donald Trump, the current frontrunner, is also going to be holding a rally. And then they're saying they're going to do this split screen, essentially, Lilia, between accomplishments by the president, accomplishments of his legislative agenda, contrasting that with the chaos and extremism that voters will get from a Republican in the White House.
Interesting. Another polling that also came out this weekend, over the weekend and early this week, Finn, we saw New York
Trump will not be at the debate tomorrow.
Biden is losing Black, Latino, and young voters. Trump is there in Hialeah. He's going to be sitting with our colleague and friend Enrique Acevedo for an exclusive Univision interview. Yeah. What is Biden doing to gain Latino voters, especially in Florida, where, as we both know, there's so much Republican Latino vote?
No, absolutely. That's a great question, Lilia. I asked that question to Julie Chavez Rodriguez, again, the campaign manager for the Biden-Harris team, and to Governor Pritzker. And they said what they're doing, they saw those polls. In 5 out of the 6 polls of the battleground states in that New York Times poll that we saw, the president was underwater with voters of color, and specifically Latinos in places like...
Didn't really understand that poll.
Arizona, where they make about 30% of the vote. Here...
So their policies, okay, so if Biden wins, his policies would favor 18% said white people, 48% said Trump would favor white people, 43% of respondents said that they would treat all races the same, 49% said Trump would treat all races the same. What a weird question.
So what they're trying to do is they're trying to appeal to the economic message that they said that the president is delivering, but has not maybe gotten through. Right now, they say, they've told me, a senior campaign official told me that they think that their message right now is not getting through. They are spending millions of dollars, yes, on ads, but it's only a drop in the bucket of what they expect to spend to target specifically those Latino voters. And they feel that for the most part, voters are not paying attention right now, but they will so as we get closer to the election. Like you said, less than a year.
That's one of the issues, is that voters don't really pay attention until we get into election. Like, so many people don't even participate in the primaries. They're not even going to be paying attention to the presidential race until they get to September or October. It's a little too late to have an effect by then.
We're away to that election day 2024, but we're only 69 days away from the Iowa caucuses.
And
you can't 69 days, nice. You can't get upset. Like, you can't get to like September and October and be like, oh shit, it sucks, Biden's the only choice I've got. You needed to get involved years ago. That was one of the things that I said on this show. I don't have that big of a platform, so it didn't matter. Right after the 2020 election, I said we need to draft Katie Porter. Let's Katie Porter to challenge Joe Biden in the presidential race. That's who I thought would be the best pick. She's like a librarian, right? She's unoffensive. She's got her own race to deal with now that she's in the Senate race, so I didn't foresee that happening. But also, there was no push to challenge Biden in the primary, and now it looks like we're stuck with Biden. So the time was like a year ago to pressure him to get out.
Come on, man.
Looks like marijuana will indeed be legalized in Ohio. If passed, Issue 2 would make Ohio the 24th state to legalize adult use marijuana. An effort to legalize recreational marijuana in Ohio is passing according to unofficial early votes. Live results, 56-4 and 44 against. 56-4 and 44 against. However, that's still with only 25% of the vote in. So, about 25% of the vote in on the abortion referendum, or the abortion amendment. It's pulling away. It's not as close as it was earlier, so looks good. Abortion will be enshrined in the Ohio Constitution, and looks like people are going to be able to get high. So let's hope if they get to puff up between now and the presidential election next year. And is it a 30-day waiting period? Well, usually there's like things go into effect in like January. Usually things would go into effect in like January, but they probably, in order to sell it commercially, like in Virginia, it's legal in Virginia now, but it's not legal to buy it until next year when the whole dispensary thing opens up. That's why they have the song and dance going on right now. You have to go and you have to buy, like I have to go and buy a sticker or a t-shirt. You buy a sticker or a t-shirt, and then you get given some weed with it. It's wild, man. But hey, whatever you got to do. Is it like a scratch and sniff? Is that what is one of the stickers I got? No, I don't think it's got any THC in it. I'm actually kind of surprised I go a lot, so I usually give my sticker. I've got a lot of friends that like stickers. They like to put them on their instrument cases and shit like that. I think I give Curiouser a lot of my stickers too. So I'm kind of surprised I had one, but also I go a lot, so maybe it's not that surprising. Do you want to check in on some? You want to check in on all the races again? Want to do one more roundup before we go to some other news? Once again, Wasserman has already called it. Washington Post has not called it yet. 53% of the vote is in. Trickling in now. It's not changed much since we have been on stream. But it looks like Andy Beshear easily winning in Kentucky, a second term as the Democratic governor of the state of Kentucky. 25%, a quarter of the votes in Ohio. It looks like abortion is going to be enshrined in the Constitution, and that marijuana will be legal. Ooh, it's so fucking close in Virginia. This is the Virginia Senate race. 10 Democrats have won. 8 Republicans have won. 20 is the magic number. There are 40 senators in the state of Virginia. You can see that several races are leaning Democrat. The Democrats currently have control. They would maintain control of the Senate, and it looks like that's going to happen. Meanwhile, we're going to check in with the House of Delegates. There are 100 House of Delegates members. 50 is the magic number. The Democrats currently have 30. 30 Democrats have won re-election. Every seat in Virginia is up. 24 Republicans have won re-election. And it is neck and neck with the leading indicator. We might not know who has control of the state house by the time this evening is over, because we did hear that they expected one of the races to be so close they wouldn't be able to call it tonight. We heard that from a analyst inside of Virginia. So we may not get the results tonight. Sky Comet. The issue 2 is the marijuana issue in Ohio. It will allow medical marijuana businesses in Ohio to grow, process, or sell recreational products. It will award cultivation and dispensary license through the Social Equity Program, which aims to help business owners who have been disproportionately affected by prohibition. That includes those who have been arrested or convicted of marijuana crimes. Cool. Task and Division of Cannabis Control will set the rules for licensing, testing, and product standards and more. As part of that, the division would set a THC content cap of at least 35% for plant material and 90% for extracts. It will prohibit driving while high, and it prohibits sales to people under 21. Doesn't say when it goes into effect, though. So sorry, I can't tell you. I would guess that it goes into effect on January 1st. Usually issues like that, that's what goes on. Do we have updated results? 29% reporting, 29% of the vote in, 55 for, and 45 against. Abortion is more popular than marijuana. Cool. So let's take a look at, as we just covered the campaign event that Biden held in Florida. On the eve of the GOP, 35% is pretty fucking high. That's what most plants are. I think like 32 to 35% is usually what the content is in the legal stuff that I get in Virginia. Yes, it'll be 21. So remember, tomorrow night, you guys never told me, do you want me to come on we'll come on a little early to cover the debate. Do you want me to come on at like 7 or 7:30? Do you want to find out what that news be doing? The debate starts at 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. We can come on early and do a little news if you want to, or we can just come on and do the debate. Either or. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm probably going to take Thursday night off again. So if you want a little news, we can totally do a little news tomorrow. I'm down for it. Republican president, this is the third GOP presidential primary debate. I don't know if it's 5 people have qualified or 5 people will be there. Remember, Donald Trump will be skipping out. We know DeSantis, Haley, Scott, and Vivek Ramaswamy will be there. I don't know if there's one other person.
All eyes on South Florida on the eve of the third GOP presidential debate. And for many of us, that means we're in for some traffic trouble tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll certainly be a busy day with presidential candidates in town for the face-off at the Arch Center and former President Donald Trump holding a rally in Hialeah. CBS News Miami has what you need to know to navigate your way through it.
Even on a good day, traffic can be a nightmare on Biscayne Boulevard at the 195, especially with all the construction going on. And it's going to get a lot worse on Wednesday.
Tomorrow, between the hours of 1 p.m. and 1 a.m., we're going to have certain closures.
The Republican presidential debate is at the night concert hall at the Adrian Arch Center. It goes from 8 p.m. until 10. About 1,700 people are expected. You see in red, Biscayne Boulevard will be closed from 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. between Northeast 11th Street and 15th, as well as Bayshore Drive.
I'll be looking at the detour signs.
Police will guide drivers around the closures. Detours are marked in green to get around the Arch Center.
That's going to be crazy because a lot of people use cars here, and like traffic, it's already heavy. If they're going to close it, it's going to be a mess. For real.
In Hialeah, Donald Trump has a rally Wednesday evening at Mylander Park.
They got payment ahead of time.
45th and 49th, as well as streets around the park and into some neighborhoods. You can see that here in red. Here in Hialeah, parking and the line begin at 8 a.m. The venue opens at 2. Guest speakers take the stage at 6, and Trump speaks at 7.
Aquí, bienvenido al presidente.
Oh, shit.
The Cyclone Market.
Well, if Trump is speaking at 7, I guess we'll come on at like 6:45. We'll do Trump's speech and then we'll do the debate afterwards. There we go.
He hopes for increased business because of all the foot traffic with the road closed.
La gente quiere comprar una agüita.
He said just like July 4th when the street was closed, lots of people stopped in for refreshments and snacks. At nearby Immaculate Conception Catholic School, it's closed Wednesday.
I think it was smart that they decided to close the school all day because, so much activity going on, the kids don't need to be exposed to all that.
The school is right next to the park. I would imagine pickup and drop-off would have been a nightmare.
Oh, a nightmare.
To get a closer look at those maps, you can go to our website, cbsmiami.com. We've got them for you there. Also, if you plan on being in any of these areas where there's closures, make sure you get...
That was one of the downfalls of doing a local news hit. They're talking about like the road closures and shit, which is important to the people that are there in Miami. Hold on, let's hear from Governor Glenn Youngkin earlier today.
And when the mother's life is at risk is a position that Virginians can come around.
Do you think that Virginia and in turn the rest of the country can come around to that kind of abortion ban?
Yeah, I think it's a position that Americans can come around when a baby can feel pain. You look at the majority of civilized countries across the world, the very large majority of European countries have this exact same reasonable limitation on abortion, and that's where we should stand. We should not be standing with countries like North Korea and China on this issue, but rather with the other countries that have much more similarities to us.
Let's stand with Israel on the issue.
You're already in Miami in advance of tomorrow's third GOP debate.
Poking the bear there.
Trump not expected to be present. Without him there, do you think that there's really a point to the debates?
No.
Absolutely. When you look at the millions of people that watch those first two debates, the millions of people that'll be watching tomorrow night, this is an opportunity for us as a Republican Party
Chris Christie.
Vision for what we have to offer to America.
That's who I left out, Chris Christie.
People are unhappy across the country. Many of these people did vote for Joe Biden in 2020, and they're not necessarily ready to vote for a Republican in 2024, but they're trying to see what the options are that are out there. What is a different vision for America? And we have a vision that includes a prosperous American future. No matter which one of our candidates becomes that nominee, we're equipped and will equip them to win, to beat Biden next November, and to make sure we put this country back on the right track. Over 75% of people in this country believe that we are on the wrong track, and we feel that every single day in our everyday lives.
And Madison, really kind of want to end where we started with the idea of the bank your vote that you were talking about, because it feels to me that in the past Republicans really steered voters to voting actually on Election Day, not to vote early. Do you feel like this is a shift?
Oh, absolutely. This has been a huge stigma within the Republican Party. Many voters across the country still unhappy, wanting to vote on Election Day. I understand it. I don't necessarily love...
To make Election Day a holiday.
Play the same game the Democrats are playing. Early voting is in place in the states until it were to change back to only one day of voting. We have an election season. We have to play that same game. The resources will not go as far if we're all voting on Election Day and the Democrats are voting over a month early in some states. So we have to make sure that we have those resources available to chase the votes that we don't know we already have. If Republicans vote early, we can chase the votes that may swing our way that wouldn't have without those resources.
Madison, Jesse Otto.
So that was live reporting outside of the debate site. I've got ABC Live over here. The Washington Post didn't go live for Election Day. I found that to be odd. Unfortunately, I fucked up my segue I was going to do. Talking about the GOP presidential primary debate that's going to be happening tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Donald Trump rally at 7 o'clock. God, our politics are fucked up, but at least we don't have a fucking king. Oh, fuck. King Charles III and Queen Camilla traveled from Buckingham Palace to Westminster on Tuesday for the reading of the King's Speech. The act is part of Britain's state opening of Parliament, an event where a centuries-old ritual meets modern-day politics.
My lords and members of the House of Commons, it is mindful of a legacy of service and devotion to this country set by my beloved mother, the late Queen, that I deliver this, the first King's Speech in over 70 years. The impact of COVID and the war in Ukraine have created significant long-term challenges for the United Kingdom. That is why my government's priority is to make the difficult but necessary long-term decisions to change this country for the better. In security of the British.
Buddy, I can tell you a lot of ways to change this country for the better, and one of them could be like starting with that diamond, giving it back to the country you stole it from. A lot of those jewels on that crown are stolen. I would assume actually all of them are stolen. Look at that fucking garish fucking throne he's sitting on. This whole thing is disgusting to me. Look at this. I can't believe this is still a thing. I can't believe this is a thing people fucking do. I said luckily we don't have a king here in this country, but if things don't go the way I would hope they do, come this time next year, we might actually have a king. And would his orange face look good on a throne like that?
Where there is a true and total breakdown of law and order, then the federal government can and should send the National Guard to restore order and secure the peace without having to wait for the approval of some governor. In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today I add, I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. On day one of my new administration, I will direct the DOJ to investigate every radical DA and attorney general in America for their illegal, racist, in-reverse enforcement of the law. We're going to do an executive order day one, so important, ending automatic citizenship for children of illegal aliens. I will do everything I can to challenge the Impoundment Control Act in court and, if necessary, get Congress to overturn it. We will overturn it. We will carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act to remove all known and suspected gang members, drug dealers, or cartel members from the United States.
And if you're president again, will you lock people up?
The answer is you have no choice because they're doing it to us.
So that sounds pretty authoritarian to me. Venus, good evening. And you know that motherfucker would love to sit on a throne the way King Charles was doing. He would love that crown. And unfortunately for us, he is the head of a party that wants an authoritarian leader. Ryan Zinke, who was the Secretary of the Interior under Trump, now once again a member of the House, I do believe. Muslim Democrats horrified by Ryan Zinke's bill to expel Palestinians, calls it pure bigotry. Montana Republican symbolic bill represented the latest escalation of political rhetoric connected to the Israel-Gaza war. The three Muslim members of Congress said in a joint statement on Tuesday they were horrified by a Republican proposal to expel Palestinians from the United States. In an echo of former Donald Trump's infamous Muslim ban, last week Representative Ryan Zinke introduced a bill that would bar Palestinians from traveling to the U.S. and revoke any visas issued to Palestinians in the U.S. since October 1st. Zinke served as Trump's Interior Secretary before coming to Congress this year. Be clear, using the full power of the state to target and persecute a particular ethnic group or nationality is fascism and pure bigotry. Yes. According to Representative Andre Carson, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, the legislation, by a former cabinet official no less, directly violates the U.S. Constitution and would illegally destroy the lives of hundreds of thousands of Palestinian immigrants who live in and contribute to American society. Okay, Wasserman says the Democrats controlled the Senate in Virginia, which we were leaning towards that anyway. It's really the House of Delegates that we're kind of paying attention to. So the Democrats maintain control of the Senate in Virginia. Thingy's legislation and the Democrats' response come amid rising threats against Jewish and Muslim Americans in the wake of the October 7th terror attack on Israel by Hamas and Israel's subsequent siege of the Gaza Strip. The Israel's subsequent genocide of the Palestinian people. I'm getting really tired of seeing people say that using the word genocide is inflaming tensions or is a misuse of the word against the Israelis. I showed you last night. Israeli scholar of the Holocaust said what Israel is doing is a genocide. Numerous human rights organizations are calling what Israel is doing a genocide. If they don't know what they're talking about, then who fucking does? I know somebody who doesn't, and that is Representative Chip Roy of Texas.
Is recognized for 4 minutes. I thank the gentleman from Georgia for his time, and with respect to the gentleman from Maryland, I understand the perspectives with respect to free speech, and I certainly wish to always stand aside the protection of free speech in this country. But this goes well beyond that, because we're not talking about restraining the gentleladies from Michigan's ability to speak as an American citizen. We're not talking about punishing her, putting her in jail. What we're talking about is whether a member of the United States House of Representatives, whether a member of this body representing this nation,
who should actually have more free speech protection because they are an elected representative,
is justified in putting forward a defense of the actions of Hamas terrorists that murdered innocent Israeli citizens, is holding United States citizens and Israelis hostage, and in her own language was defending on October 8th, a mere 24 hours into the brutal and barbaric attacks in which babies were beheaded.
Oh my God!
Babies were placed into ovens, literally.
Babies were placed into ovens. That's a new one to me. I want to go ahead and clarify. There is no evidence of this baby beheading thing. None whatsoever. I watched what I could of the Israeli press conference where they detailed the horrors of October 7th. And, none of those claims came up.
Moms were raped in a house while their babies were put in an oven. A documented account, video evidence.
What?
And this is dismissed as resistance to an apartheid state. My problem is that the gentlelady is also referring to, quote, Joe Biden supporting the genocide of the Palestinian people. The gentlelady has put forward that by virtue of the United States of America funding in solidarity the people of Israel in defense of their right to exist, that by virtue of our position as Americans, standing in front of that flag in this chamber representing 330 million Americans, that by funding and supporting Israel, we are somehow perpetuating.
The claim comes from a supposed first responder who handled the baby. But apparently there is no verification that this actually happened. The senior Hamas leader denied that the terrorists who had breached the barrier fence and carried out the massacre on Israel's southernmost kibbutzim in cities a month earlier had killed any civilians or women or children, claiming that only soldiers were targeted. That's not true. We know that not to be true. But this idea that they put a baby in the oven is unverified.
The call for violence that we saw unfold right before our eyes on October 7th in the most brutal.
John, Richard, good evening.
Some of us have ever seen. I do not doubt the gentlelady's sincerity of her concern for her home people and concerns about the attacks on the people of Gaza. I had some people who called into question that I would put out my public support for my former colleague, Justin Amash, who lost cousins in a church, receiving missile fire into a building next to a church. I genuinely pray for the people of Israel, the people of Gaza, the people throughout the world that are now dealing with all of this. But the gentlelady cannot, as a member of Congress, be standing up and telling the world that what we saw unfold in attacking Israel is justified.
But you are saying what we are seeing unfold now in Gaza, a literal genocide, that you're okay with it. That is disgusting to me.
We can't. Free speech matters. I have grave concern right now about where this institution is going with respect to censures. I voted against the censure last week because I thought it had drafting problems, and I thought it had significant concerns it raised. I believe the work that was done by my friend from Georgia here put forward a resolution that is worthy of support. And so I support the resolution and believe that we should pass it. I thank the gentleman from Georgia.
I believe that we should let Rashida Tlaib defend herself. See what she has to say. And apparently she gets very emotional. As well she should.
I'm the only Palestinian American serving in Congress, Mr. Chair, and my perspective is needed here now more than ever. I will not be silenced, and I will not let you distort my words. Folks forget I'm from the city of Detroit, the most beautiful, blackest city in the country, where I learned to speak truth to power even if my voice shakes. Trying to bully or censor me won't work, because this movement for a ceasefire is much bigger than one person. It's growing every single day. There are millions of people across our country who oppose Netanyahu's extremism and are done watching our government support collective punishment and the use of white phosphorus bombs that melt flesh to the bone. They are done watching our government, Mr. Chair, supporting cutting off food, water, electricity, and medical care to millions of people with nowhere to go. Like me, Mr. Chair, they don't believe the answer to war crimes is more war crimes. The refusal of Congress and the administration to acknowledge Palestinian lives is chipping away at my soul. Over 10,000 Palestinians have been killed. Majority were children. But let me be clear. My criticism has always been of the Israeli government and Netanyahu's actions. It is important to separate people and governments, Mr. Chair. No government is beyond criticism. The idea that criticizing the government of Israel is anti-Semitic sets a very dangerous precedent, and it's being used to silence diverse voices speaking up for human rights across our nation. Do you realize what it's like, Mr. Chair, for the people outside the chamber right now, listening in agony to their own government dehumanizing them? To hear the President of the United States, we helped elect, dispute death tolls as we see video after video of dead children and parents under rubble. Mr. Chair, do you know what it's like to fear rising hate crimes, to know how Islamophobia and anti-Semitism makes us all less safe, and worry that your own child might suffer the horrors that 6-year-old Wadia did in Illinois? I can't believe I have to say this, but Palestinian people are not disposable.
That's right.
Got it.
are human beings, just like anyone else. My city, my grandmother, like all Palestinians, just wants to live her life with freedom and human dignity we all deserve. Speaking up to save lives, Mr. Chair, no matter faith, no matter ethnicity, should not be controversial in this chamber. The cries of the Palestinian and Israeli children sound no different to me. What I don't understand is why the cries of Palestinians sound different to you all. We cannot lose our shared humanity, Mr. Chair. I hear the voices of advocates in Israel, in Palestine, across America, and around the world for peace. I am inspired by the courageous survivors in Israel who have lost loved ones, yet are calling for a ceasefire and the end to violence. I am grateful to the people in the streets for the peace movement, with countless Jewish Americans across the country standing up and lovingly saying, "Not in our name." We will continue to call for a ceasefire, Mr. Chair, for the immediate delivery of critical humanitarian aid to Gaza, for the release of all hostages and those arbitrarily detained, and for every American to come home. We will continue to work for a real lasting peace that upholds human rights and dignity of all people, and centers in peaceful coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians, and censures no one, and ensures that no person, no child has to suffer or live in fear of violence. 71% of Michigan Democrats support a ceasefire. So you can try to censure me, but you can't silence their voices. I urge my colleagues to join with the majority of Americans and support a ceasefire now to save as many lives as possible. President Biden must listen to and represent all of us, not just some of us. I urge the president to have the courage to call for a ceasefire and the end of killings. Thank you, and I yield.
Gentlelady yields back.
I think it's pretty obvious why they want to silence her. She's a very powerful voice. PP Girl, good evening. We'll do a rundown of election stuff here in just a second. Let's finish all this. We're not covering the clashes in Gaza tonight directly, but there were a couple of protests that apparently got incredibly violent here in this country. A Jewish man is dead in California after a dueling rally between supporters of Palestine. And I don't even know what to call the... Are they pro-bombing Gaza protesters? I don't even know. They're just anti-Palestine protesters. I don't even get the position.
Good morning, and there's also a lot of sadness and a lot of questions. It happened on this corner here in Thousand Oaks, and now you can see that there's a makeshift memorial in honor of this 69-year-old Jewish man who died. There are Israeli flags here.
Not that he died, that he was 69.
Again, and I want to show you what it looked like on Sunday. There was actually competing protests at this corner here at Westlake and Thousand Oaks Boulevard. There were pro-Palestinian demonstrators on one corner, and there were pro-Israel protesters on another corner, and sometime during those competing protests, Paul Kessler was fatally injured. He died yesterday at the hospital. He was 69 years old. At this point, Ventura County Sheriff's detectives say there was some sort of altercation and are investigating, but do not know whether this was a hate crime, but have not ruled it out either. A witness tells us a pro-Palestinian protester hit Kessler in the head with a megaphone. We are blurring that protester's face because he has not been arrested or charged. Here's what else the witness told us.
So there he is with the bullhorn. He's echoing what's being said out of the public address system. And when I saw the fracas start, I saw the bullhorn come across. It was very easy to see from where I was.
I would assume the dude probably fell back and hit his head on the concrete, and that's why he died.
Now, again, detectives are still investigating what exactly transpired and what led up to it. But all of this comes at a very tense time with an increase nationally of anti-Semitic attacks. And a 6-year-old Palestinian American boy in Chicago was also killed last month, police say, over the tensions. That's why local organizations are issuing statements. The Jewish Federation of Greater...
Made it really seem she's like anti-Semitism on the rise. And talked about the boy being stabbed. The boy was Palestinian. Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian sentiments on the rise as well among the right.
Los Angeles saying violence against our people has no place in civilized society. We demand safety. We will not tolerate violence against our community. We will do everything in our power to prevent it. Meanwhile, CARE LA, the Council on American Islamic Relations, says it joins the Jewish community in denouncing violence, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia, but adds, quote, we urge everyone to wait for the Ventura County Sheriff's Office to complete its investigation before drawing any conclusions. Our thoughts are with the family and the Jewish community during this difficult time. Now back out here live, the memorial...
I should have made it they condemn.
...continues to grow, and with all of the tensions nationwide, this story is getting a lot of attention nationally and even internationally. And today at 10 a.m., the Sheriff's Department is expected to hold a news conference to update us on the latest in this investigation. We will be at that news conference, and we will, of course, bring you the latest. Live in Thousand Oaks, I'm Christopher Hardelis.
I just like the idea that Palestine is the aggressor. Or there is no Palestine, really. It sucks. To me, the entire country of Israel is actually Palestine. But unfortunately, yeah, I shouldn't have made it gendered. I'm sorry. And it's been wild to come to the realization here, like we're a month out from the attack. There is no two-state solution anymore. I would have said I was for a two-state solution. But like it's clear now politically that there is no two-state solution. Probably hasn't been in 10 years. That's the reason why Israel has been building the illegal settlements. And propping up Hamas. I mean, to be perfectly clear, I'm not on the side of Hamas going in and, beheading babies or anything.
Be condemned.
I think it needs to be they condemn, because I'm always hitting it in, we're listening to a interview and they're like, well, I condemn the Hamas attack, but they condemn. Getting video out of the University of Florida where a vigil was held. Police investigating a suicide bomb threat. Crazy shit went on.
This new body camera video from University of Florida police shows a panicked crowd scattering during a vigil last month for Israelis killed by Hamas, and you can see waves of...
Yes, Flash, that's it. A secular democratic government with the right to return for all Palestinians in exile. Full citizenship. Okay, so this vigil was actually held on the 9th, it looks like. So a couple of days after the attacks on October 7th.
This new body camera video from University of Florida police shows a panicked crowd scattering during a vigil last month for Israelis killed by Hamas, and you can see waves of students just sprinting to find safety as officers scan the area for a potential shooter. Police say there was no active threat. They say a woman in the crowd fainted and her boyfriend shouted for someone to call 911. Fresh Take Florida, through U.S. College of Journalism, they went through hours and hours of this body camera footage, and they also discovered that earlier that same day, police were secretly investigating a potential bomb threat targeting the vigil. It was never made public to students, organizers, or any of the 1,200 who gathered.
Well, that's a thing that happened. All right, since we've got people that might be joining us late, let's go ahead. We'll run over the election results. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has won a second term, defeating Republican challenger Daniel Cameron. Unfortunately, the Republican that was running for the Attorney General to replace Daniel Cameron has won in that race. Ohio issue 1 has now been called by the Washington Post. Abortion rights have been enshrined in the Ohio Constitution. Congratulations, Ohio. Legal weed. Legal weed also happening in Ohio, winning today. Once again, we're checking in with the Virginia House of Delegates. All 140 seats are up for grabs. 40 senators, 100 delegates in the House of Delegates. There was no active shooter. So in Virginia, right now, the Democrats are up in the House of Delegates count, 37-31. However, it looks like the races that are leaning Democrat and Republican are neck and neck. Apparently, there is one race specifically they are not expecting to be called tonight, and control of the House of Delegates could come down to that one race. In the Senate in Virginia, and this one was important because Governor Glenn Youngkin was wanting to push an abortion ban in the state of Virginia. Democrats look to be on their way to retaining the Senate. Wasserman has already called it for Democrats. Currently up 13 Democratic wins in the Senate to Republicans 12. You can see that the lean Democrat putting them over the 20 needed to control the Senate. They already had control of the Senate in Virginia. It's looking like Democrats will retain control, and it's possible they will take control of the House of Delegates. Well, come on. Everybody say hi to Smokey. Attention. Look at this weird stare. He's just like staring upwards. Buddy, what's going on? Hey to everybody. Don't kick the microphone. Hey to the people, Smokey. Such a cute kitty. Little Smokey time. Where's the Smokey? Where's the Smokey at? I've lost it. Here we go, Smokes. Little asshole wouldn't cuddle with me this morning. And then just as soon as I got out, like he wouldn't go, I wanted to go back to bed. I was like, "Come on, Smokey, let's cuddle back up." Nope. He would not lay down with me. And then just as soon as I get up and go over here to the chair and start to work, jumps right up in my lap. Smokey is very Smokey is really chill. Like you can pick up Smokey and do pretty much whatever you want with him, right? Like Socks isn't gonna let me he lets me pick him up and hold him, but I can't just prance him around the way I would Smokey. And then Maynard, oh my God. Oh, after 3 months, finally came out from hiding. Oh, that's sweet. It took Maynard a little while. I don't want to say it was 3 months, though. It took him about a month before he was out and about. He was very shy at first. Now, like, he acts like he owns the place. Maynard. He's in there in his bedroom. I didn't want to get up and come over here and start putting the show together. It was like 5 o'clock. I laid on the couch for a little bit. Got out of the chair. Gave my ass a rest. Maynard got up on me, and he was laying down. He was looking so sweet. I love that the drop I made for Maynard is about how he's not impressed. He always looks tired of your shit, but he's become. It's took him 3 years. It's took him 3 years. I got him in 2019. Got 4 years. It took him 4 years. But like, that cat loves me now. That cat is my little buddy. 4 fucking years. All right, we're gonna do some crime news. Gonna do some crime stories. We'll check back in with election results, and then we'll get the fuck out of here because it's gonna be a long night tomorrow. Apparently, we're coming on an hour early. We're gonna do Donald Trump's speech at 7. GOP presidential debate at 8 o'clock. Yes, I think I've got some fun crimes. See, like, I want to get a house because I want to have a dog. Yes, we got a couple of fun crimes. Well, I mean, you fucks would consider a teen stabbing a cop in the head with a screwdriver. You guys would probably consider that a fun crime. Oh. Man with a gun was arrested on Capitol Hill.
Here on Capitol Hill this afternoon, I'm Leon Harris. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Susan Hogan. Officers arrested a man carrying a semi-automatic weapon just after 12:30 in the park between the Senate side of the Capitol and Union Station. News 4's Mauricio Casillas joins us live with what we now know about the suspect. Mauricio.
Susan, Leon, about an hour ago, we were briefed by U.S. Capitol Police Chief Tom Manger, who identified the suspect as Amir Levon Morel from Atlanta, Georgia. Chief Manger says that Morel was walking through this park carrying a weapon that resembled an AR-15 when someone spotted him and then alerted Capitol Police. I want to go ahead and show you this video that was taken by a bystander, which shows Morel in custody. Capitol Police say officers approached him and demanded he drop his weapon. Police say he ignored that and kept on walking without really saying anything. Police say an officer then tased Morel and arrested him without incident. Bomb technicians were also searching a bag that Morel left in the park, but nothing suspicious was found. Morel was loaded into an ambulance and then taken to a hospital. Police say he's expected to be okay after being tased. Now, Chief Manger says it took officers about 3 minutes after the initial report to take Morel into custody. What's still unclear, though, is what he was doing in the first place.
Based on our officers' limited contact and limited conversation with Mr. Morel, there is some indication that he may be dealing with some mental health issues. We don't know that. We don't
probably
know why he was in the park with a gun. He made no statements as to why he was here or what he intended to do. Again, it's still an ongoing investigation.
Capitol Police say they're still looking into when Morel actually got here or how it was that he got here. Chief Manger says that he is facing a charge of carrying a firearm on Capitol grounds with other charges still pending. Live on Capitol Hill, News 4.
Sorry, I thought I muted my mic there. I just coughed right into it. My apologies. When I do the freak show, I have to tell everybody that you'll hear my mic even when I mute it because it's not going through OBS, it's going through my board. So every time I mute my mic and cough, the guest gets it right in their ear. Okay, the next couple of stories are pretty horrific. lawsuit has been filed against a Christian children's camp in Arkansas, accusing it of widespread abuse. It was a facility operated by a man who had his sentence commuted. I said pardoned earlier. He had his sentence commuted by former President Donald Trump. It was apparently some kind of a treatment facility, so I wonder if it was like conversion therapy. Jesus. Not a drag queen, not a drag show. Weird how that happens. Weird how it's religious people and even cops that seem to be preying on children. But the right wing all upset about drag queens for some reason. Got another one for you. I mentioned cops. Why'd I mention cops?
Knoxville police officer currently under suspension is due in federal court Thursday afternoon. Federal prosecutors charged him with producing child pornography. Court records say Officer Dan Rourke reached out to a mother in Virginia to gain access to pornographic photos of her daughter.
The mother in this case is also facing prosecution. 10 News reporter Krissa Lucas joins us to share what the investigation revealed. Krissa?
John Robin, it all started with an anonymous tip to the Scott County, Virginia Sheriff's Department, and according to a federal affidavit, Officer Dan Rourke and the mother in Virginia ended up trading numerous text messages. The affidavit says Rourke texted from his phone starting around July until just a couple weeks ago. The text included requests for inappropriate photos, and in exchange, the mother requested money. A Knoxville criminal defense attorney explains why this case moved quickly.
A criminal complaint is where that probable cause determination, instead of being made by a grand jury made up of citizens, is made by a judge, in this case a magistrate judge, who has taken the affidavit of an investigator and determined that that same probable cause exists and the case has been instituted by criminal complaint. Usually you see that when there's some concern about an ongoing harm and the government doesn't want to delay long enough to convene that grand jury.
Criminal defense attorney Loretta Craven says Rourke could face 15 to 30 years in prison.
That's all?
Back in federal court Thursday afternoon here in Knoxville for a detention hearing. Craven says that's when the court will determine if he should continue to be held in custody. Court records state Officer Rourke met the mother back in 2007 on Yahoo. That's when their communication started, and that's also the same year he started with KPD. John Robin.
Krissa, thank you.
Man, stories like this might make you want to stab a cop in the head with a fucking screwdriver now, wouldn't it? So maybe this woman is actually a hero despite her booking for attempted murder.
But don't limit yourself. Don't fall into the level of a bias of like, oh, she's just an 18-year-old white girl. She can't hurt me. That's a very dangerous path to go down.
A Kentucky teen is charged with attempted murder after she allegedly attacked a police officer with a screwdriver.
She clearly had a screwdriver in her pocket. She fled law enforcement. She used that tool to try to escape. So it was clearly a weapon in the moment. Might not have been designed to be a weapon. That's ultimately what she deployed it as.
You might have had good reason.
This woman, 18-year-old Kenzie Van Arsdale, stabbed an officer in the face in the early morning hours of November 4th. It happened in Mount Washington, Kentucky, about 30 minutes south of Louisville. Retired Police Sergeant Ashton Pack says it's likely something was off with Van Arsdale that led her to stab the officer.
This woman clearly...
What was the officer doing to her? Like, I want to know what caused it. Let's see the body cam footage. Did the cop try to assault her?
Something going on in her brain. Something wasn't right. Even if it was just a panic fight response. And maybe she comes from a world where no one has ever told her what she can and cannot do. And this law enforcement officer shows up and says, these are the rules, you cannot be here. And then maybe she just made a choice right then and there to try to hurt him to get away. So
maybe he was trying to fuck with her.
But you can't be paranoid either. You can't treat everyone you come across as though they're a sociopathic killer. You have to be safe, you have to be professional, and that's where the training really comes in for cops.
Officials say it was about 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday when Mount Washington police officer Mark Brammer began his shift by unlocking the gate at Lindsay Duval Park on the city's west side. Authorities say that's when Brammer saw Van Arsdale and asked her to come over to his squad. At first, Van Arsdale was cooperative, but later she changed her tune and ran off. Brammer followed, and when he caught up with her, Van Arsdale allegedly stabbed him in the face with a screwdriver. She stabbed him just 3 inches above his left eye.
So I do believe if you stab a police...
What was she accused of? Why was he asking her to come over to her cruiser, or to his cruiser? I am suspicious of the cops, especially, this was outside of Louisville, but man, let me tell you about the Louisville Metro Police Department and their rampant sexual abuse of so-called suspects. So I want to know what that cop thought he was doing. I want to see the body cam footage.
Police officer, even with a screwdriver, you could easily articulate an attempted murder charge there. And ultimately, the design and original purpose of a screwdriver is not to kill people, but you have to think about the fact that any kind of edged weapon, baseball bat, a screwdriver, an edged weapon, not necessarily even a knife designed for defense, box cutters. I mean, 9/11 happened because a bunch of guys had box cutters in their pockets. So
that is not the reason 9/11 happened.
Is an actual weapon. Yes, firearms and knives are kind of seen and presumed to be weapons of kind of to defend yourself or even commit crimes and murder with. But again, she's clearly had a screwdriver in her pocket. She fled law enforcement. She used that tool to try to escape. So it was clearly a weapon in the...
Fled from what? She wasn't accused of anything.
That's ultimately what she deployed it as.
PAC says it's possible the attempted murder charge against Van Arsdale changes, but she's still accused of a very serious offense.
If the elements of the crime to attempted murder are met, then the law enforcement officers who arrested her will charge her with that. Ultimately, when she goes to court, she'll have her day in court. She'll have her attorney who can represent her interests. And then you'll have the prosecutor who will represent the state's interests. And somewhere in the middle, maybe we'll find, I don't know if there'll be maybe a plea agreement or a compromise here. But yeah, it's a very serious charge. If you stab a police officer, I think you should, in all reality...
Yeah, baseball bat is an edged weapon.
And so whatever tactics were used or whatever de-escalation situation occurred where the officer was able to take her into custody and not use deadly force, I don't want to see anybody get killed at the hands of law enforcement. And I don't think most law enforcement officers want to have to deploy deadly force.
As scary as the situation is, PAC says it isn't that common for an officer to be attacked on the job.
The fact of the matter is that officers, and most stops go completely compliant. The vast majority of law enforcement contacts with civilians and citizens in the country, they don't end in anything other than maybe a warning or a ticket at the most. So the good news is most law enforcement contacts, people comply with officers. They have no ill will towards the officer.
In fact, PAC says he's never been attacked while working as an officer, but he's familiar with it happening to others on the force.
I don't care. You're leaving a lot out here.
Policies are written on black and white paper, but life is gray, policing is gray. And so you have to have general policies that guide law enforcement, and training has to kind of...
If attacks come at the hands of men, PAC says no one can be ruled out as a potential assailant.
Well, the data definitely...
The cop could be a potential assailant. Why is that possibility not out there? I am going to keep an eye on this story. I want to know what exactly happened. I can't wait for this to get to court and hear what her lawyer has to say. Because I would put money on it that cop was up to something. I don't think an 18-year-old just stabs a cop for no fucking reason. I mean, they didn't even say that she was trespassing. He said he was opening the park for the day, and she was there. So if he opened the park for the day, then she's not trespassing. It's open. I guess technically she could have been trespassing before he got there. Well, it was from the Law and Order Crime Network. They are very biased towards cops. As a lot of media are. Oh, I know, Flash. I know. Believe I worked in news for long enough. That's one of the reasons why I'm so skeptical of cops. I worked in news for years, and I saw the cops lie about shit that they had no reason to lie. I saw them lie about shit that there was like no negligence on the cops' parts and shit. Like, they're just pathological. I think the profession attracts sociopaths and pathological liars. Numerous examples where there was no reason for the cops to lie. There was nothing for them to cover up. But maybe they believed it. You know, our minds do weird things. We play weird tricks on ourselves. We've covered it here on this show. I've seen cops lie when they had no reason to lie. It's absurd. Cops probably lied about this case where they were chasing a suspect and the suspect crashed into a pond and died. And I'm sure no cop is going to be charged with homicide for this.
Thanks for inviting us in. It's now 6 o'clock and we begin tonight with breaking news. A police chase ends in a deadly crash into a pond. I'm Scott Swan.
And I'm Jenny Runovich in tonight for Anne-Marie Tiernan. Our John Duran is live for us at the scene. This is near Girls School Road and Rockville Road on the west side. John, what are you learning there?
I don't even know what state are we in. Indianapolis. This was after we did a shooting this weekend in Indianapolis. No, we didn't do a shooting. We covered a shooting this weekend.
Jenny, behind me is where the pursuit ended and the crash occurred, just across from Girls School Road from me. You see the arm of this truck, crews working on that. The vehicle is still in the water. You can't see the water, but it is just over this little hill. You also see some downed branches next to the pond as well. That's where police say the car lost control and went into the pond. But we know this started in Plainfield at an attempted traffic stop. Police say the suspect's car took off from that traffic stop, heading east from Hendricks County. At one point, police say getting in a hit-and-run crash with another car, continuing into Marion County, east on Washington, and then north on Girls School Road, losing control where we are now, going into that pond. Police say officers went in diving after that vehicle to try and get the suspect out. They couldn't. A dive team went in afterwards.
What were they accused of? How many times do we do stories where I point out that what the cops instigated or what the cops did to somebody is far worse than whatever the suspect was accused of? I am a firm believer that you should not instigate chases. We need that to be a federal policy, that police are not to chase suspects.
And declared that suspect dead here at the scene.
It's incredibly unfortunate, and it's sad that we have this affects the family involved of the subject in the vehicle. It affects our officers deeply. It affects our community. And our officers respond to the actions that the subjects present to us.
Victim blaming here. Our officers respond to the situation that they put us in. Oh, fuck off.
And this affected traffic here on Girls School Road. Last time
what was he wearing?
You can see behind me, north and southbound traffic on Girls School Road is now open. Jenny, Scott.
All right, John Duran on the west side.
Yeah, PB girl. I should have couched it in that. Like, if you've got like a mass shooter or something, yeah, pursue them. keep it on car crashes, shall we? Remember a couple weeks ago, we covered a super fog in Louisiana. Resulted in dozens of cars crashing. It happened again. God,
really slow
wild
down.
video.
You need to slow down. We're seeing that obviously speed is a factor in these as well. And people come up on this very quickly. And, it's just really unfortunate circumstances and challenging.
So once again, this is smoke. As I mentioned, the hills are alive with the sound of crackling fire right now. Here in Appalachia, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, all experiencing forest fires. Smoke from nearby marsh fires mixed with dense fog has caused these super fog events. They didn't mention, apparently one person died in this crash.
This is a Fox weather alert. One man is confirmed dead after an accident near New Orleans with dense fogs limiting visibility across the area. This is fairly close to the super fog accident that we were tracking just weeks ago. So I-10 in New Orleans is closed near Michaud Boulevard and also Irish Bayou. This is due to multiple accidents surrounding some possible smoke that is worsening the visibility issue. This is sort of an outline camera shot to show you the situation. We'll continue to watch behind the scenes and provide updates as they come in as we are tracking closures due to fog. Now, this is a wide scope looking into New Orleans. You can definitely see the fog. We're a little bit past sunrise at this point, so conditions are improving, but we still have some very low visibility being reported up on I-10, or pardon me, that would be I-12 in Hammond. Of course, I-10 kind of connects farther down to the south. We also have some very low visibility in Homa, down to a quarter of a mile south of New Orleans. So please take a lot extra caution here. Dense smoke advisory is in effect right over the same area where we saw the super fog accident, actually, from Slidell moving southward into New Orleans itself. So a lot extra caution needed here. And of course, avoid traveling I-10. It's currently shut down because of accidents working in the area, reportedly due to fog and smoke in the area.
I'm Amy Freeze. Welcome to Fox Weather's YouTube.
Amy Freeze giving the weather. I don't know what's going on. Maynard just came up and tried to get in the window, but did not make it. Totally botched that one and fell out of the window and then ran that way. Then socks popped up like something's going on outside. We've had a little kitty that keeps coming by, and it looks like it's got something wrong with its eye. I've tried to get it to come to me, and it won't come to me. I've been feeding it. It hasn't showed up the last couple of nights, but it was every day for like a week. I'd take it some treats out there. Amy Freeze, what a name for a weather reporter. School bus gets stuck under low bridge again. There's only one reporter you'd want for this story. Her name is Caroline Lowbridge. Amy Freeze, he is clumsy. He is not great. Like Smokey's graceful, right? Smokey prances around like almost like a dressage horse. Maynard is clumsy as fuck. He's the one that gets in the bathtub with me, right? Maynard gets in the bathtub. He hopped up on the bathtub the other day and did like a complete front flip into it. Was like flailing and shit. And then ran out. Silly cat. Amy Freeze. Perfect name for a weather woman.
I'm Amy Freeze. Welcome to Fox Weather's YouTube page. We have more great videos on the way.
He was born to do it. I wonder if that's a nom de plume. A lot of radio personalities, TV personalities. I used my real name because my real name was easy, right? like the corporate program director at the radio station I worked for. His name was Johnny Aspenlighter. Fuck, I can't even remember what was his. I can't even remember what his on-air name was now. But, like, understandable. He used a fucking on-air name because his name was Aspenlighter. But my name, like, 2 syllables, right? You want, like, 1 or 2 syllable names. So Justin Mullins is a good name. So that's why I always went by my real name. I will actually say that, I interviewed for a rock radio station like 2007, and this was at a time when I was trying to like change things up, and I actually pitched that I wouldn't go by my real name. I would actually go by Justin Zane. Justin Zane was what I wanted to go by. And the program director said, haha, that's funny. We used to have a guy named Justin Hill. And I'm like, God damn it, that one's better. Why didn't I think of that? Justin Hill. I might have to steal that. My name on ICQ was Just Incredible. It predates the Freakin. I adopted the Freakin name like my senior year of high school. ICQ predates the adoption of the Freakin name. Yeah, the right-wingers totally claim climate change isn't occurring, even though, the world's on fire. As I pointed out, mountain fires are pretty common in Appalachia, but they used to have I stole it from a wrestler, though, Tones. Just Incredible was the ECW champion at the time, I actually believe. I can see for a news broadcaster, Justin's credible. The world is on fire. My God, I'm in this political group on Facebook, and this woman posted that, like, sea level, like, it was a scientific article and everything, and she's like, see? Because it said sea levels were higher 3.5 million years ago than they are today. And I'm banned on Facebook right now, so I couldn't, like, comment and be like, you stupid fuck. Humans weren't here at the time. It's probably like fucking volcanoes and molten lava every fucking where. When the sea level was higher, that's not evidence that climate change isn't occurring. If you're pointing to the fact that sea levels used to be higher than they are now as evidence that, like, climate change isn't real, you're a fucking idiot. Humans couldn't inhabit the Earth 3.5 million years ago. I believe it's 3.4 million years ago is when the first ancestor started, right? Oh, had to mercy kill a snake. Oh, that's sad. But it's clear that climate change is occurring. That's why the Just Stop Oil protesters have been ramping up their protest. This time, breaking the glass cover of a painting at the National Gallery.
Women did not get the vote by voting. It is time for deeds and not words.
Oh yeah, that's the reason why I really wanted to point this out. This painting was apparently vandalized in 1914 during the women's suffragette movement.
It's time to just stop oil. Politics is failing us. Politics failed women in 1914. country, if we love art, and if we love our families, we must just stop oil. Please go into the next room. Please go to the next room, please.
I mean, they aren't wrong. Just Stop Oil protesters have been arrested after smashing the glass covering a Diego Velázquez painting at the National Gallery in London, as police detained dozens of others who blocked Whitehall. Two activists targeted the glass on the Rokeby Venus painting with safety hammers before they were arrested on suspicion of criminal damage. The artwork, which was painted by Velázquez in the 1600s, was slashed by suffragette Mary Richardson in 1914. One of those involved on Monday said women did not get the vote by voting. It is time for deeds, not words. Metropolitan Police said at least 40 activists who were slow marching in Whitehall were also detained, and that the road was clear after traffic was stopped for a brief period of time. That's possible, PP girl. I don't know enough about the organization, but I agree with their message. That NWA hat. Fuck the police. Did you know that Steve Martin dropped a book? Steve Martin's perfect response to Florida school district that pulled his book. In social media posts on Monday, Only Murders in the Building star, I don't even know what that is, Steve Martin, maybe that's a movie he's in now, said he was proud that his 2000 novel Shop Girl was among the more than 300 books pulled from the Collier County Public School libraries in Florida. So proud to have my book Shop Girl banned in Collier County, Florida. Now people who want to read it will have to buy a copy. A little snarkiness there. Martin wrote in a Facebook post that has garnered more than 38,000 likes. The book, which was adapted into a movie starring Claire Danes in 2005, was removed by the school district following the passage of a new Florida state law that makes it easier to challenge a school library book that depicts or describes sexual conduct. Other authors affected by the removal include Stephen King, Toni Morrison, Ernest Hemingway, and Alice Walker. That is the cover of Shop Girl. I have no idea what it's about. Oh, that's a TV. Oh, yeah. He's got like an Amazon TV show, doesn't he? It's got like another high-profile A-list celebrity besides Selena Gomez, I think. I watched him give an interview on it, if I remember correctly. Big Steve Martin fan. Is it any good? Should I check it out? Oh, what am I doing? Let's check back in on election results. First, let's go to the Washington Post blog for their key updates. Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, has won a second term. He says his victory is proof that angry politics should end. Ohio has voted to legalize recreational marijuana and to tax it. Ohioans also have voted to protect abortion rights in the state constitution. Rhode Island voters made history by electing the state's first black representative. Bullshit! I'm calling bullshit! Rhode Island isn't a real state. It's a fictional state from the TV show Family Guy. Democrat Gabe Amo has been elected to Congress in a special election. Presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy told CNN that the Republican Party didn't need to change its position on abortion after Ohio voters overwhelmingly approved a measure to protect that right. Instead, he said that the party needs to be better about the way we discuss this issue. He said messaging should include greater access to adoption, child care, as well as sexual responsibility for men. Fuck off. Mississippi is still voting amid a ballot shortage, and lawsuits are going to fly. Voters remained at the polls in Mississippi's most populous county late on Tuesday amid dueling legal claims and ballot shortages. We have two different lawsuits going on, and right now one order contradicts the other. Now, this is according to Hinds County Circuit Clerk Zach Wallace. The state's Democratic Party and a voting rights group sued to extend voting by an hour after reports of ballot shortages in at least 9 polling locations, and won an emergency order from a county judge. Said the Mississippi GOP appealed to the state Supreme Court to overturn the order and set aside votes cast during the added hour. Of course they did. The Hinds County clerk said polls were not staying open an added hour, but that those in line at 7 p.m. would still be allowed to vote, and that as of 8:15, there are still people in line. Biden celebrated the passage of the Ohio ballot measure.
Come on, man.
Tonight, Americans once again voted to protect their fundamental freedoms, and democracy won. Biden said in a statement, Ohioans and voters across the country rejected attempts by MAGA Republican elected officials to impose extreme abortion bans that put the health and lives of women in jeopardy, forced women to travel hundreds of miles for care, and threatened to criminalize doctors and nurses for providing the health care that their patients need and that they are trained to provide. Democrat Van Valkenburg projected to win the Virginia Senate seat in a key district. We've already called the Virginia Senate for Democrats. Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee, which works to elect Democrats to state legislatures, held the passage of the Ohio ballot measure that would enshrine the right to an abortion in the state's constitution, saying it sends a strong message to the state GOP that reproductive rights are non-negotiable. Terrell Parker, elected the mayor of Philadelphia. A former city council member and state legislator, was elected mayor of Philadelphia on Tuesday, the first woman elected to the position in the city's history. So congratulations, Parker easily defeated Republican challenger David O., a former councilman at large in the heavily Democratic city. A lot of news about Andy Bashir. Andy Bashir will be a factor in politics going forward. After his success in Kentucky, I would say, sir, please stay in Kentucky. Please win one of the two seats held by Republicans in the Kentucky Senate. The next one that will be up for grabs would be Rand Paul in 2026. Can we please have Andy Bashir run against Rand Paul in the Kentucky Senate? I would rather not see Andy Bashir run for president in 2028. I would rather see Andy Bashir run for Senate in 2026. But I do expect to see Bashir's name in politics for years to come. So Democrat Gabe Amo just won the House race in Rhode Island's 1st district. It's not a real state. Will be the first black man to represent a state in Congress. Exit polling shows a sharp divide between 2020 Biden voters and Trump voters on Ohio's 2023 abortion measure. Well, President Biden lost Ohio by 8 percentage points in 2020. Early 2023 exit polls suggested a somewhat larger share of Biden voters turned out than Donald Trump voters in Tuesday's Ohio election. About 9 in 10 Biden voters supported the measure that would enshrine the right to an abortion, while about 8 in 10 Trump voters opposed it. Still, about 1 in 5 Trump voters backed the measure. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker looks to next abortion battles in Florida, Nevada, and Arizona. Abortion rights advocates, including Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, are hopeful that Tuesday's results in Ohio and Virginia could show a successful path for their strategy to make abortion more accessible in key states following the Supreme Court ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade last year. That's kind of the rundown from the Washington Post. We know that Bashir won in Kentucky. Ohio. Good night in Ohio. Abortion rights enshrined in the Constitution, and they get legal weed. Hell fucking yeah. Check in Virginia. The Senate looks to be going to Democrats. There is still a couple of races out. 18 Democrats have had their races called. Looks like about 4 more are likely to go for the Democrats, giving the Democrats the edge in the Virginia Senate. The Virginia House was controlled by Republicans. And it looks like the Democrats are going to take control of the Virginia House of Delegates. We're currently sitting at 42 Democrats having won their seats, 32 Republicans having won their seats, and the Washington Post is giving the remaining 8 seats plus 1 or 2 more to leaning Democrats. So it looks like the Democrats will win control of the Virginia State House. Sorry, Glenn Youngkin. Hate that for you, buddy. Probably handed the Democrats the state house because Youngkin, for whatever reason, is popular in Virginia. So his push for this 5-week abortion ban may have very well handed the state house to the Democrats. So good job, dipshit. Ah, fuck. Smack the microphone. Also, good job to me, dipshit. So that is the rundown of the election results for tonight. We'll go over the... We've really only got the Virginia House race left. And there might be a couple of other races that we will check out tomorrow. I guess we'll come on at like 6:45. 6:45 tomorrow. Trump rally at 7. GOP debate at 8 o'clock. Gonna be a long night. Get your rest in. Probably won't do a stream on Thursday. Aw, PP girl, I'm sorry you got missed the debate. Hopefully you'll catch some of it. If not, you can catch the stream later on Spotify, on YouTube, on Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute. Sorry you're going to miss out on the Trump speech, because you know that's going to be wild. Here's a cat. Man getting a facial from a cat. Isn't it adorable? Gonna be a wild night tomorrow night. Trump on his home turf, just outside of Miami, with a rally going almost head to head. I wonder what the thought process was for his rally to start at 7 as opposed to going head to head with the Republican debate at 8. Oh yeah, it's been a wild week in court. So you know he's going to have grievances he's going to have to throw out to us. And then at 8 o'clock tomorrow evening, the main event, the third GOP presidential primary debate. We've got 5 participants: Chris Christie, Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, and Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis on his... It's going to be interesting to see how the crowd reacts on Ron DeSantis' home turf. The debate is being held in Florida. Ron DeSantis, not popular in Florida. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm Justin Freakin. We'll see you tomorrow night for a wild night.